Our game is Hexy. So, kicking off the new year, 2025. So, the first game we decided to play was from Band of Brothers, The Old Breed. And as you can see, the scenario card here I got set up for the first scenario played, which the event happened on January 2nd on Cape Gloucester, which is on New Britain. All right. The the Marines were working on taking the airfield at Cape Gloucester, all right, or Gloucester, however you want to call it. I'm going to call it Cape Gloucester. Sorry, you're not going to hear me saying much about the name. We're going to address this as No Name Creek. Well, so a couple battalions from the Marines were already dug in on the creek, but they were given orders to sit tight until the airfield was taken. Then it was taken. So on January 2nd, they were able to kick off their attack to get across the creek, and that's what we're addressing in this scenario here. So let's take a look at what happens here at No Name Creek. All right, so my initial strategy on this was I split the Marines up into two sections to attempt two objectives. And it turns out that the Japanese have put bunkers here at the point above the No Name Creek here. And this is listed as a shallow waterway or shallow creek. And then a bunker over here to the right. And then they had one stuck in the middle right here, which, well, we'll talk about that here in a second. But the any kind of fire into here was painful, trying to, whether it's rifle fire, machine gun fire into any of these bunkers. But you do have Marines that are carrying satchel charges, and in this scenario here, well, in the game system itself, these satchel charges, once they're used, they have an option to where this unit no longer has the ability to use satchels, and you change the counter out with a unit, which would be like this one here that has no satchel. You see the little white square, that means they have a satchel. So if they use their satchel, you roll on what's called a retention number, which in this game here it was 7 for the Marine units. And both of these Marine units use their satchel charge, but they rolled their retention number and they were able to. So in other words, maybe they were carrying 2 satchel charges. Okay, but if they failed the retention roll, you would replace them with the exactly same unit that doesn't have a satchel charge marker on it. All right, so the two sections with the victory conditions of having, I think it's 3 units across the creek, decided to hit these bunkers on these points. Okay, and this here is already at the end of the first turn, and as you can see, the Marines on the left side here of the map, they are across, and they did drive the units that were in this bunker out. This weapons team has moved in, and now granted, there was all kinds of opportunity fire. This guy here would have put final protective opportunity fire on this guy here, and this unit, there's a Japanese unit that is inside this bunker. Well, he moved into this bunker. So what I can't find in the rules, and if somebody can help me answer that question, is when a satchel charge, and I've seen what these things do, when they go off in a bunker, does it destroy the bunker if it's a successful attack? All right. Anyhow, there's my approaches. Let's hit this bunker at this point, and let's hit this bunker at this point. Now let's see how we sort of ended up here. Now, don't snap at my improper use of symbology. I probably use the dots for down to platoons and squads and stuff here. This bunker, like I say, is reoccupied. I'm sorry you can't see the unit underneath there, but it's an infantry unit. The Japanese also, initially, when this bunker was being hit, the game is played in operations phases, and you get a command range. Well, the Americans have a command range of 3 to 7, which means they can move up anywhere from 3. They must move 3, at least 3, and up to 7 forces. Now, granted, when you get down to like maybe your second or third part of the operation phase for your side, you may not have 3 units, so you're just going to execute operation what you have left. And the Japanese have a command range of 2 to 3, so they don't get to do much. But you know what? They're on the defensive anyhow. Most of the Japanese forces, which I wished I would have took a shot at the beginning before I started playing. Actually, what maybe I did. I'll have to see, and if I do, I'll post that on here in the front of this video. But so the Americans, like I say, they moved in. They've captured this bunker right here, even though that weapons team is not inside it. I don't think it's going to matter because the bunker would have been facing to the front this way. And the same over here would have been facing the front this way. Now, I'm not using the facing rules for the infantry units. I probably should. It'd probably add a little more realism to it. But the Japanese decided to move forces, a weapons team and an infantry squad, this way to come over here and support the lack of forces over here. They had like 5 decoy units, and those decoy units, as they were, and I'll talk more about this after I'm done with playing the scenario. But they didn't really get to serve a purpose when you're playing solo. I've got to work that one out, and I want to say I read somewhere about how to use them when you're doing solo play. Could be another game I'm thinking of. I don't know. I'll check that later. But these guys are across, so there's 1 unit across on this side of No Name Creek. And we need to get 2 more across the creek. I believe that's it. I've checked the victory conditions on that. But they shifted, and now I'm realizing, oh, Lord, they've already taken this bunker over here. They've cleared it, unless these guys, this infantry unit here, can drive them out. So, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. They don't have much of a force over here. They've got a unit. I believe they've got a unit underneath here in a foxhole. This unit is in a foxhole. He hasn't. I should leave the conceal on him. He hasn't been brought up yet. And they've got a gun unit in here that has a clear line of sight up No Name Creek this way, and a clear line of sight up No Name Creek this way, so he can engage the forces, the American forces. So it was tough to figure out how to move the American forces across. Now, granted, opportunity fire, regular opportunity fire is at whatever the range of the weapon is. You can shoot at the range of the weapon. But the final opportunity fire is only when a unit moves adjacent. So if you have a unit he's used his command, his operation, and an enemy unit moves adjacent to him, even though he's used, he can still do a final opportunity fire on any unit that moves adjacent. There's going to be some subtractions in the modifiers for what they do, or how effective they are. But believe me, I found out that, well, as you can see, all the suppressions and reduced units over here, not to mention that during recovery, some of these units that pulled back, they ended up getting eliminated because of the role they had. And they have the description on what your dice roll is compared to the casualty rating of the unit, which the casualty rating, you see these 2 numbers here. Full strength unit, that's their casualty rating on this side, which is good. And a reduced unit, that's their casualty rating on this side, okay? And every time you get fired at, you're gonna roll against those numbers to see whether or not a unit gets reduced, or whether a unit can potentially get eliminated. And I believe I did have 2 units that just from fire, where they got suppressed, that when they rolled against their casualty rating, it eliminated them right off the bat. So it's like, a squad just got shot up and destroyed in one burst of fire from an enemy, okay? So this guy controls, like I say, he controls the center of the creek, which is a shallow creek. Now, another thing in this game too, and if somebody catches this, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Excuse me. The only open ground that I see, according to the way the rules read, is these 2 hexes right here. Because if you look on your player aid cards for the terrain and stuff, which their player aid cards are kind of cool, kind of simple, easy to look at. A lot of information on them, but they're very easy to look at. It says in there that if there's no terrain under the hex dot, then it's open ground. Okay, well, if you look on the chart, you're going to see modifying numbers for fire going into this hex here, swamp, so that's terrain. This is a shallow water. It's listed as a terrain, all right? Jungle, okay? And this is open. There's no terrain. And when you look on the player's aid card, you'll see that there's no modifiers when there's any fire going into these hexes. So this entire map, even the kunai grass here is considered terrain. So this entire map, the only open terrain that I see is these 2 in this area of the battle. These 2 hexes here, and these 2 hexes, maybe this one down here, I can't tell because the unit's sitting on it. That's all I see that's clear terrain. So when you're firing it moving in the open, these are the only 2 hexes where a unit would be considered moving in the open. And let me tell you something, that is a huge modifier when you're shooting at somebody. It's like a +4 if you're within a range of 1 to 4 hexes when you're doing fire on somebody, or opportunity fire on a moving unit. All right. All right. So there we have. That's the end of turn 1. We'll probably shoot video with the next. It's 5 turns long. We'll let you know how that works out. We'll probably shoot video with that. This was a little longer than I wanted it to be, but hey, we're gonna finish this thing out. It plays pretty fast, pretty smooth. I started playing this system a while back. Haven't been back to it yet. But I'm looking for certain events that happened in the month of January, and this is the one to start it off. All right, talk to y'all shortly.